Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jim and Frank's Thursday Throwdown!
Jim, it is Thursday and it's time for a throwdown.
Yeah, it is. We got a heavy hitting band on this episode.
Yes, we do. I was surprised when you threw this one at me.
I think we would be remiss if we did not cover this band.
Yes, yes. And why don't you let everyone know what we're checking out this week?
Metallica,
Yes.
1986, Master of Puppets,
Wow.
up against 1991, self-titled or no title, or the Black Album,
The
as
Black
it's
Album. Yes.
largely known as.
This is an evolution of a band, these two records.
Yeah.
And I know there's some personnel changes and different producers come in because they were using their longtime producer before that, Fleming Rasmussen. He was producing them pretty regular in the old days. And that album, Master of Puppets, I do like the title track. I think that
Yeah.
is
It's hard to not like it.
yeah, fantastic song. Uh, the rest of it, like I said, it was 61-year-old Frank did not enjoy it as much as, say, 30-year-old Frank.
Well, it's no Ride the Lightning.
Oh my goodness. We won't even get into that. One thing that I think that is kind of curious about this record is I looked it up on Wikipedia a bit, and they're still mentioning certain riffs that were suggested by or created by Dave Mustaine all the way into this album.
Well, the band says no. There's one song I think that Dave is laying claim to on this record.
Okay.
Um, Dave needs to let it go. I'm sorry,
Can't.
man. You gotta
You
just
know,
let it go.
some things are inevitable. Dave is always going to be taking shots at Metallica. Paul Stanley's always going to be taking shots at Peter Criss. Some things just don't go away.
Yeah.
Sammy's going to take shots at Dave. That's just how it is.
And vice versa.
True. So we still had Cliff Burton playing bass.
Still had Cliff Burton.
What a beast he
And
was.
you know, I was reading up on the songwriting of this record. It was all written by James and Lars.
Mm-hmm.
And after they had written, I guess, the bulk of the record, then they called in Cliff and Kirk. But I would say that if James and Lars were the brains of the outfit, Cliff was
Mm-hmm.
the soul of the band.
I think so. I think so. What is your opinion or take on Kirk Hammett as a lead guitarist?
I like Kirk. He's got some serious burn on this album.
Yes.
Better than I expected.
Right.
Like some of this stuff I haven't heard in a long time. I mean, Master of Puppets has kind of had like a little resurgent thanks to Stranger Things, right? But there's stuff on here I haven't heard in like ages,
Right. Battery. Oh,
Yeah,
love
Damage
that
Inc.,
stuff.
right?
Yeah.
I probably haven't heard that since 1986.
Right.
Um, yeah, Battery's brutal, right? They
It
just
is.
kick it off. Uh, then they get into the title track, Master of Puppets. Cliff does have a writing credit on that.
Okay. Did you notice a lot of these songs start off with that soft beginning? Um,
Yeah,
a lot of clean guitars to start something off before they hit you with the sledgehammer.
yeah. This is basically their major label debut,
Mm-hmm.
right? They've been signed to Elektra, um, based on the strength of Ride the Lightning,
Right.
right? which was all, well, not self-released, but independently released. And then Elektra went back and re-released Ride
Right.
the Lightning. Good on them for uh recognizing, the potential of the band. Signed to an 8-album deal.
Right. They must have known something.
Good grief,
How,
man.
how do you ever, especially this is what, 1986?
86.
Yeah. And there was no telling what the musical climate was going to be, but they wanted them locked in.
Yeah, hard to tell. I mean, they had done well as an independent band,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, you couldn't turn on the radio and hear a Metallica song.
Right.
Maybe on KNEC.
They were playing them. Yes.
Um, but you weren't going to hear them on KLOS or
No. No.
or anything else. Absolutely not.
And this album eventually now is gone 8 times platinum.
8 times.
That
Yeah.
for a speed metal, thrash metal, heavy metal album, that is amazing.
Well, 2015, it became the first metal recording selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the National Recording Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant.
Oh,
I would say this is probably uh, one of the most influential metal records of all time.
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
This was a game changer, right?
Right.
Like thrash largely did not exist.
No.
Um, I remember hearing an interview with Scott Ian, and the guys in Anthrax had a rehearsal space or whatever,
Mhm.
and so Metallica had gone out there to New York, and they were renting space, but like they were broke. They didn't have any money. They were
Right.
sleeping on the floor of the studio
Wow.
essentially. But Scott talks about seeing him for the first time and just being blown away. He said,
Mhm.
I'd never seen anybody that played that fast. It was
Right.
just kind of mind-boggling, right?
I agree.
And coming from Scott, I mean, that's a pretty big compliment
Right.
of sorts.
Do do you find any hypocrisy at all? I think we've talked about this in the past, but a band who basically got their following by telling their audience, record our show and share it with as many friends as you can.
Yeah, they were always open about that,
Now, here,
taping.
except for the fact that when they got a little bigger and Napster was a free sharing file platform, they sued.
And I think rightly so. I do not see that as hypocrisy at all.
You don't
And
think?
and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Right? So writing, recording, paying for that, right, process. People were going to shows to tape, right? They've already paid for a ticket. Right. And they had like a little bootlegger section where you could go in there with
Right.
right. But they were choosing what was going to get shared for free amongst fans.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with Napster, they had probably spent a gazillion dollars recording Injustice, right? Or the Black Album. But now it becomes a case of,
You don't need to buy the record now.
well, I don't need to buy the record. Just
Right.
one guy needs to buy the record, and we're going to share it to everybody.
Right.
Right? There's no return on that investment. And I saw an interview with Lars, and he gets hated for this thing,
Right.
right? For coming out, and he said, I don't have a problem giving away free stuff when I get to choose
What it is
what's being given away and
Right.
how it's being given away.
Right.
Right. And I think as an artist, they absolutely have the right to that. Call me whatever dirty names you want, but I'm sticking up for Lars on this.
Right.
I don't think he was off base. I'll tell you what I find hypocritical. Uh, Dave Grohl going on national television and talking smack about Lars and saying like, "Well, you're a multimillionaire. What are you griping about?"
Right.
Right? Um, but then I think the next Foo Fighters record, when they released it, they made it so you could not copy the record.
Right.
Right? Oh, Dave, yeah, it's all gross when Lars does it, but you make it impossible for your fans to do the
Right.
same thing. That to me is hypocritical.
Gotcha. I found it slightly hypocritical only because the only people that were going to be downloading off of Napster that was Metallica would be a Metallica fan. And I looked at it as you're still getting your music out. Yes, I know you're talking about an album as opposed to a show. But I think if I was a teenager and I ripped one of their records, that would even give me more incentive to go see them live also and buy their merch and everything. I mean, I understand they lost a ton of money. Don't get me wrong, but there is also a return on it also.
Yeah. I mean, there is, but at the same time, if that was probably happening, would have been after the Black Album, maybe, or maybe about the time of the
About
Black
that
Album,
time.
right? That was about the time computers were really starting to become
Yeah.
like a home thing, right? I mean, they sold 20 million copies of that
Yes.
album.
Right.
Uh,
I don't think it hurt the sales.
when I was working at the record stores when the Black Album came out, right?
Mhm.
And the merch guy who would come around and sell his t-shirts, right? The joke was Metallica could put out anything. They could take a red can of spray paint and spray an M on a black t-shirt and it would
Would
sell.
sell. Well, look at Lulu. Case in point with Lou Reed.
Yeah.
A lot of people bought that until they listened to it. Then word got out, but
Yeah.
the initial sales were amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, we're in a time where people don't buy records anymore, right?
no, the whole record industry and slash business has changed so much that uh, I don't think Metallica could exist in today's world if they were just starting out because there's so many bands out there that are not signed, that are not getting exposure, that are just as good.
Sure, there's plenty of talent out there,
Yeah, it's
right?
sad actually because we grew up in an age where man, you get to go to a club and see a band for the first time, and you feel like you discovered them,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You took ownership in that when you went to a club to see a band. Now they got to pay to play. They have to you know play at a brewery or a bar or something like that. There's not. It's very very limited,
Yeah.
and that is
And part of the argument is also that, like, when that whole thing happened with Napster, the record industry had a chance to kind of pivot and do something different.
yeah. The greed wouldn't let it happen though.
Right, right. But their whole thing is, why do we need to change?
Right.
They're kind of old man thinking or
Yep.
whatever.
Exactly.
Sadly,
Right.
right? Metallica could have become like a singles band or
Yeah.
something else.
So,
Uh,
so let's talk about the Black Album, man.
all right.
We've heard almost every song. I think we just talked a little while ago, maybe four or five that were not singles.
Yeah. I mean, there were 5 singles. I'd have to look up now and see how many tracks were on the record. I think maybe another 5.
Something like that. Yeah.
Um, there's no thrash on this record.
This is a hard rock album,
Yeah,
and
and not a fast-paced record. It's there's some stuff that starts out a little thrashy. Um, My Friend of Misery,
mhm,
right? Struggle Within, kind of head down that road, and then they hit that sort of
right,
middle pace kind of hard rock. It's heavy enough, I guess, but the production is so slick on it that
right.
like,
This is Bob Rock, and
yeah, I mean,
he,
to me, it's would they be making this record if Cliff was still in the band? I don't know.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. I think his uh, was it Robert Trujillo or no, this is
This is Jason Newsted at
Jason
this
Newsted,
point.
and I am surprised. Just recently, they've come out and talked about how great he was and how much he helped them.
Yeah.
Because and I always looked at them as kind of being down on him all the time,
Well, they were.
and
I think hindsight, I mean, hindsight now has given him like some 2020 vision.
as
Like,
you grow up a little bit,
Jason was a great player,
yeah,
we abused him. Um, it was a short period of time between Cliff's death and getting Jason in the band, right? They
right?
probably hadn't even healed
No, well, I think they
from
were
that.
still a lot of bitterness and pain from losing Cliff the way they did,
A founding member, right?
right? Yeah, and yeah, it's just recently they've really actually given him his props, and it's uh, better late than never. But you know,
Yeah.
it's he was a major contributor as far as the music went, as far as I could tell, because it's just excellent bass player also.
Yeah, and I think it stemmed from I think the band was looking to take some kind of a hiatus or something, and Jason said, "Well, I got this side project I want to
Right,
do," and James was like, "What do you mean a side project? You're in Metallica. We don't do side projects."
right.
And I think James later said, "If I had it to do over again, I would have just let him go down that creative path,
Just
right?"
right. Yep. So we have singles: Enter Sandman, The Unforgiven, Nothing Else Matters, Wherever I May Roam, Sad but True, long drawn out prodding songs, right?
Yeah, I mean, Enter Sandman kind of cooks along,
Yeah,
right? Sad but true. It's very slow to mid pace.
right.
Unforgiven.
I
Wherever I May Roam's kind of a mid pace rocker.
mm, I've never
Um,
understood their reasoning for drawing out the songs the way they do, because a lot of their songs probably could be cut down a minute and a half, and it would still hold as a good song. If they cut that much out, but they
you,
seem to have those long middle sections that just I
when I was listening to Master of Puppets, I was thinking like, could you edit this down?
right.
Right? Some of these songs are long. Could you edit any of it down? And I don't think so. I
They
think they're perfect as is.
those are because they're fast paced tunes, and
Well, there's time changes,
in
right? And
time
then it
changes
comes down
exactly
and it goes
right,
slow and then it speeds back up, right? It's never not interesting.
right. Yeah, no, and they went on with this Saint Anger, all those albums after the Black Album. It just I lost all interest. I was never a huge Metallica fan to start with. I was always Team Megadeth, and
Yeah, kind of the same, right? I was never like a Metallica fan, but
right.
when I would hear them come on the radio, like when they're playing stuff off of Master
Mm-hmm.
Puppets, Ride the Lightning, that early stuff, I really dug it because they
Yeah,
didn't sound like anybody else,
no,
and they were really their own thing.
right,
But I wasn't running out buying the records, right? What
no,
I heard for singles and most of that, all that stuff got played on the radio anyway.
yeah,
But I thought they were great.
yeah, no, they're definitely a major player, and like you said, two times diamond equals 20 times 20 million
Yeah, 20 million
records,
records. That's unbelievable.
right?
So
And
10 million albums is one diamond, 20 million, two diamonds.
yeah,
So yeah, they weren't hurting for sales on this album
no,
whatsoever.
no,
Even if a million people were ripping it and sharing it, I don't know that it mattered.
not at this point.
This might have been slightly ahead of the sharing curve.
Prop 91 probably was, yeah, because
Yeah,
that was more that came later on.
maybe 95 or
So I'm
something
saying
like
95,
that.
96 is where I'm thinking.
Yeah, let's see. About the time of Load, maybe.
Yeah. Now, would you go see Metallica live given the chance if it was in a decent venue?
Um, uh, Probably not.
Yeah. That's
I don't know.
odd.
They're not my band.
Right. It's odd that they are a band that I like. If they're on the radio, I'll listen to them. If it comes up on iTunes as a suggestion, I might give some certain records play here and there, but I don't have any desire to see them live.
If somebody had said, um, "Hey man, I got an extra ticket to Metallica. You want to go?" I'd be like,
Right.
"Oh yeah, I'm in."
Yeah.
Would I go hunt that ticket down? No, probably not.
It would
My
have to
son went and
be,
saw him, said it was a great show.
yeah. It would have to be a situation for me that all the planets aligned to go.
Yeah.
Just perfect. But yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. 1991, Bob Rock comes in, and of course, uh, he is a producer extraordinary. He must carry polishing rags in his pockets because he does polish everything up, and his name is all over the place on a lot of bands other than Metallica.
Oh yeah,
It's
absolutely. I
everywhere.
mean, production wise,
Right,
that would I say the Black Album blows Master Puppets out of the water? Yeah, probably.
right. But song wise and craft wise, I tell you what, if
Yeah, I'm all in on Master Man.
I'm right there with you. That would be the album that I would pick. Master of Puppets is a it's a good place for any Metallica fan to start, also, because you get the whole enchilada with that record.
Yeah, from and everything I've heard kind of after that. I mean, And Justice, I think is a
Mm-hmm.
pretty
Oh yeah,
solid record. You can't hear the bass on it, right?
right,
They completely sabotaged Jason's bass on the
right.
mix. Um, I, for me, Master of Puppets is maybe their best record.
Oh, I think you're right, and I just don't think again 8 times platinum, 8 million records is nothing to sneeze at. Nothing's going to compare to that Black Album. They were just on a plateau,
Right.
heading up to plateau, anyways. That nothing else come close to it either.
It's probably given them the freedom to do whatever they want after
Right.
that, right? Whether it's commercially viable or not, or
Yeah.
whatever. I hope that they're just making music to please themselves.
I think nowadays they are.
Then
Yeah.
good on them.
Yeah.
And if people are in on it and buying it, then you know, get on them, right?
Yeah.
They still have fans that are sticking with them.
Yep.
They they gained a gazillion fans,
Right.
20 million. They gained what, 12 million fans on the Black record,
Right.
but I'm sure they lost a lot of fans. I mean, a lot of people were just like, I don't know what to make of this record.
Yeah. Well, I'll see. There were
Couldn't cope with it.
when they talk about the big four, because you still had people like Slayer and Anthrax and everything still holding that banner high for the thrash and the speed metal.
Yeah. What was the Megadeth record that came out about this time?
Uh, Gosh, I think
It's not Symphony for Destruction.
no, that was
before
later on.
that.
Um, See, now I'm drawing a blank. My favorite record of all time is Rust in Peace, and I think that was '93, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong,
uh,
but
oh, I think maybe it was Rust in Peace.
yeah. Um, just we're gonna have to review a couple Megadeth
Yeah, I
albums
think
because
so.
I just they to me they I don't know why they're my pick over Metallica. But anyways, sticking with this record, we're gonna go with Master of Puppets for the knockout.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the way I gotta go.
I'm good with it. Okay, what about the listener? What do you guys think? You have an opinion on Metallica, Master of Puppets, the Black Album? What do you think?
Or something else.
Yeah, is there another
Maybe you
record?
really love Ride the Lightning.
Some people do. Some people don't
do.
like it at all for all different reasons.
Some people hate it. Some
Yeah.
people would likely, if they were driving around and had that cassette in the car, they would
Throw it
probably
out the
just
window.
pop it out. Yeah, right out the window. Even if it's not theirs, it might belong to their wife.
It
I don't
could. You never know. You're a bad, bad man. All right. Until next time, Jim.
All right. We'll see you next Thursday.
All right.